How's it going, guys? This video we are taking apart top of the Yashica Electro 35 GSN to clean the viewfinder just a little bit because there were some finger smudges in there. I think we're gonna take it out and do a general clean, so the viewfinder is gonna look super nice and ready for the next shoot. Okay, so you'll need a few tools. The most definite one that you're gonna need is a spanner, like a lens spanner. I am over here just using one of my leatherworking tool, which had two pointy, ends, so I can put those two ends aligned with the hole here, because this one you do need a spanner to open, and just turn it very carefully, counterclockwise. Once you have this opened up, you can use whatever, like a pick, whatever, just continue loosen this lever cover. And this is probably the toughest part to do. Once you have this removed, the top, it's very easy to come off. So there's a couple components. So you have the top cover, you have a washer, don't lose those, and just put them together. Okay, like leave it on the side, put them together. You have your actual lever, and under the lever is a pivoting washer. Also don't lose those. Don't worry about the direction because it only goes in one way, so when you put it back together, they're nicely fit back together. So you have the hardest part done. Better use a lens spanner. Okay, next you'll want to actually remove the battery check button, which is very easy. You want a cross point screwdriver, which are common for Asian, like delicate equipment removal. Those are not American, like Phillips head screwdrivers. I think they call it cross point or something like that. And be very careful, don't lose this little button. The little button is a battery checker. Actually, the wider end goes inside. When you take it out, it's very easy to fall off. So make sure you hold on to it. Don't let it fall off into the camera, okay? Very hard to get out. Once you have this button and the screws removed, leave it on the side. Next, you need to remove the ISO dial. Again, you will have to incorporate one of those wrench, specialized lens wrench. And again, I am just using my general tool, and be really careful. It's very easy to scratch the top cover with those general tools. That's why I am not advising anybody using this. You need a special tool. All right, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. So again, I'm just gonna use my pick to further loosen this. The ISO dial, once you start turning, the dial is all gonna go crazy. Don't worry about it. When you put it back on is where it gets a little bit tricky, okay? So first remove this little cover piece, put it on the side. You have your actual ISO dial, okay? This one is a little worn, it already looks like. And if you look on the back, some sign of worn. And the very end, very last piece is this little thing, little stopper looking thing. This is what's gonna this is what's gonna secure the ISO dial later on when you tighten the screw, okay? So don't lose that. And with that loosened, I believe you can take this out, okay? And it would be nice to know the ISO, but again, it's not necessary because it's only got one hole to align with the dial. For some other modern cameras, you have to be really careful, but for this one, it's okay. Those two lights, be really, really careful, because if you push hard, they're gonna fall off and fall down into the camera, which is gonna create problems too. It's better when you service the top part, or when you try to clean the lens. What I used is rubber cement. I just rubber cemented those two lights back onto the top plate so they don't fall off, because when I got the camera, they actually fall off on me, and it's really hard to find those lights. I have to remove the bottom plate, 3 screws, and then get the lights out. This Hotshoe sink also is an area of concern. I'll show you guys why. And okay, the very last thing you need to take off is this thing, film rewind knob. So in here, when you open it, you just want to find a kind of a tool to stop this thing from rotating, and then you can turn the rewind knob counterclockwise to loosen the rewind knob. And once it's loosened, you can just use your hand and it's gonna fall off. And make sure you don't let this fall to the bottom, otherwise if you accidentally close it, you can't really get it out. It's nice, it's better to use a tape, okay, later on. Anyway, the top cover is pretty much ready to be taken out. There are only 3 screws securing the top cover once you have everything else removed. First one is right here. Oh, don't lose them. Leave it on the side, secure place. Second one is on the left side. Last one. Crap, where did I put my screw? Right here. The last one, I think it's in the front somewhere, or maybe not. Oh, on the other side. So 3 screws to unsecure, and then you can pull the top off. Now, be very, very, very careful. Once you pull it off, supposedly your PC's this white wire, which is your PC Hotshoe sink, is supposed to be connected to this, but mine is broken off very easily because it's been 60 years. The joint is very brittle. It broke off, but it doesn't matter to me because I don't use a flash, so I just leave it off. If you want, you'll have to resolder. If you really want the Hotshoe to work, you have to make sure opening up very carefully, set it aside, and never have this drop down because this wire is not long enough. It's gonna fall off, okay? So be super extra careful. Now this is what I'm talking about. Those 2 lights, they're gonna, with age, they're gonna deteriorate and fall off. So I use the rubber cement, which seems to work pretty good for securing them on there. So I'm just gonna leave this on the side. Now, the front piece on the inside are actually frosted glass. So if you want, you can use the cotton tip to kind of just clean the inside of the frosted glass to make sure there's no fingerprints. You can use a little bit of the lens cleaner if you want. I just usually use the Zeiss lens cleaner I have. Works pretty good, but it doesn't dry as fast as alcohol. But again, I don't trust alcohol for those really delicate old cameras. And this is frosted glass. You can also kind of just gently clean it, but I don't think it makes much difference because this is used for creating that focus feature. Okay, so make sure they are, you know, fingerprint free and doesn't have any dusts on there. Now this one looks beautiful. Okay, so this glass piece is clean. I'm gonna leave it on the side. Again, I can do that because my sync cord is off, but you have to be careful. Leave it on the side and make sure it's connected still to the sync socket. Okay, over here you can see the rangefinder mechanism. It's got a cover on top. I am actually just gonna lift it up. This cover, again, is secured by glue. It's probably gonna be very loose with use. You can just remove it if you want. And those glass elements are sometimes what gets dusty and what gets dirty. Now I need to find out where that fingerprint is, and I need to very fully clean that fingerprint. I think mine is actually, you guys can see that, it's in the front right there. There's a giant print. I don't know when I touched that when I serviced the camera. So all I'm gonna do, little bit pressure, and I'm just gonna gently wipe this, get that oil off. And then you can easily view through the viewfinder and make sure there's no more fingerprints anywhere, no more dust anywhere, and the system should be, you're gonna have a beautiful rangefinder, okay? I'm gonna test. So mine now is dust-free and fingerprint-free. Now, for some other people, your other lenses might get clogged or might get foggy. And those lenses are the back side of this piece, of the front element, and this diagonal element, the front and the back. I just gently, very gently use a cotton tip, preferably lint-free cotton tip, very gently wipe those areas, pick up any lint, a small amount of canned air maybe, but I'm really scared to use canned air because the pressure is too high. Just a very small, gentle pressure. Make sure to get the dust off, because inside here is usually very clean. Unless you poked your finger in there, nothing is going to be too crazy in here. So this element, front and back, this element, front and back, this element, front and back. Those are the areas of concern. And then you have a mirror here. I usually just very gently clean this mirror here because sometimes it might got dust for the focusing system. But other than that, my camera is again nicely clean. I'm gonna very carefully close this flap. I used a little rubber cement on here so it doesn't fall off right away, but usually it should just fall off. With all those cleaned, check your other features, make sure everything's still in good condition, no rust, no corrosion anywhere, and we can put everything back. And right here you can see the button. If I press it, that's a green LED light. Cool, right? So the camera still works fine. Like, you don't need those buttons. If you press down, it's still gonna meter with the power on, but now the power is off, so we don't have to worry about that. Just not touching any glass elements. Put everything back. Okay. And again, with you guys who still have the sync socket attached, be really, really careful not to rip it off. But I mean, even if you rip it off, the flash for those cameras are pretty much useless nowadays and very bulky. So I wouldn't use those. Just my personal preference. The first thing you're gonna do is put the 3 screws back, so to secure the plate, 1 in the back, 2 on the side. And then you can slowly put everything back together, and the camera's viewfinder should be like pristine. Like right now, see if it's possible. You guys can see this viewfinder is absolutely beautiful, okay? No dust and no fingerprints. It's ready to go. The focusing mechanism is very, very nice in this camera too. So for people who complain about the focusing bad in here, they probably need a clean in the rangefinder elements, and they should have a very bright rangefinder. I find this camera pretty amazing for a camera in its 60s, the 60s cameras. This camera is over 60 years old. I mean, think about that. It still works perfectly. That's just the good engineering of the old days. Ooh, be really, really careful again. Don't lose this. I'm gonna put this back at the very end. I'm gonna put everything else back. So the film lever, you can kind of just put it on there, screw it a little bit, and I'm gonna lift it to open the film door and just secure the underside a little bit so it doesn't turn on me, and then turn clockwise to secure it. And you have a nice ready to go film door, film rewind knob. There are some foams under this that's missing, again due to age, or probably someone else already serviced this before, but I don't think it's going to affect the performance. The only thing you need to be careful of is the seal, the light seals. That's the only thing you have to be careful of. Now I can close the film door, and we're going to put the ISO dial back. And again, as I said, don't worry about where the position is. All you have to do is just align this little hole on the dial. And now we're going to put this piece back. So the side that's poking out is going to be facing the plate on the ISO plate here. Okay, so this is how it's configured, at least I think, because when I turn it, this thing keeps the dial from turning and only turns the bottom part. Okay, so now again, now I'm not worried about aligning the ISOs. I'm just gonna get everything installed first, because we're gonna align it at the very end using my pick very gently. Just try to get it screwed on here. Once it is on there, we're gonna further tighten it just a little more. And you can see it's turning like crazy. But as we are getting close to tightening it, now you want to adjust your ISO all the way to the end where it doesn't turn. And that is your ISO 25 at the bottom, okay? So you want to align 25 right, ISO 1000 right here, and continue tightening it. The trick is tightening it without this turning more. Again, it's gonna be tricky. I'm just gonna give it a few different tries until I get it kind of stopped where it's stopped. It's a patience is all you need. And once you kind of stop there, test. If you turn this and ISO dial doesn't turn, you have successfully reinstalled the ISO dial. And check to see if the top part is 25, whatever it is, and the dial doesn't turn. And if it does turn, it's okay. Just try to realign it, find where 25 and 1000 is. You can kind of still use it in an emergency and go home and retighten the top plate, okay? So this camera is really easy to service. And the last thing, of course, is just put the rewind mechanism back there. Again, you're gonna line it with the thing pointing to the bottom, and you're gonna line with this thing pointing again to the bottom, like where it's supposed to rest. And your washer, doesn't matter about the direction, just make sure you have this washer so it turns nice and smoothly. And the very last piece is this top cover plate. And we're just gonna hand tighten until it stops, and then do a final tightening using the tool. Again, my tool is a horrible tool. I highly suggest you guys go get a proper tool from Amazon, which I just ordered. So it's gonna arrive soon so I can service all my other cameras. But this tool is just, it's very easy to scratch, okay? Now I'm just gonna turn and tighten it just a little bit, not over tightening, just a little bit. So it secures there. So it works perfect. Last step, right here, we're gonna put the light on here. Make sure this little button lines up with where you're gonna put the little red thing, okay? So the best way to do it, ooh, crap. You guys can see, I just damaged this. I don't know if I have a glue to glue it back, but you can probably get replacement parts. But yeah, it's gonna be tricky. I need to glue this first before I put it back on there. Otherwise, it's not gonna look good, okay? But I'm just gonna show you guys. You want to align that little red button with the thing on here, and then just screw your little black piece of, let's see, the screw. I'm gonna screw one side, see what's gonna happen. Maybe it'll stay in place, I don't know. And with this secured, I'm gonna test which is successful. So let me screw it on here. Too bad that it's split. I think the screw is still gonna hold the position of the light, but this piece is gonna fall off because again, it's totally cracked. Those 60s plastic are very brittle. That's why in a lot of other camera designs, the plastic is the first thing that goes bad, okay? But this is how you clean the range finder in this camera. As you can see, most part is nicely cleaned. Probably still a little bit of the area that needs clean, but again, when I look through the viewfinder, really there is nothing there. So I don't have to like further go crazy on it, and we'll reserve it for the next time once too much dust gets accumulated again. Okay, so hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please do hit the like button or subscribe to my channel. I should have more similar camera maintenance and review videos for the 35mm film cameras coming out for you guys. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.